everyone.
Hi,
My name is M9.
and I'm Nixie, and this
And this is Out of Character. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Out of Character. And oh boy, do we have a topic for you guys today.
So excited.
Excited in, like, what kind of way?
I'm excited to talk about it because it's been like 5 days or so of insanity on this subject.
This is, yeah. I mean, we are gonna try to, hey, everybody on the chat, hello. We're gonna try to keep it slightly formatted just because of the nature of things. You know, we do want to hit certain points in order.
I think part of it is also having to explain it because some people might not know, especially because we're just out of character. A lot of people might not be aware of what's happening in the D&D realm right now, which casual players of D&D are way more likely to not know what's happening.
Right. So as you can see by the stream title, and of course those of you that are listening to after, you wouldn't see this except for the episode title, but we are talking about Wizards of the Coast and everything D&D and all the drama that's going on with their OGL. And
OGL, quote unquote.
Yeah, and Nixie did a lot of research, has gone through a lot of things online, and you know,
I did research for this episode, guys. I listened to hours of podcasts to make sure I could bring you guys accurate information.
So
I've got like so many different things up right now, so I'm excited.
So I mean, let's go ahead and let's just get started on what it is that we are going to be talking about and why it's kind of a big deal. Nix, if you want to give like a summary.
Yeah. So basically, to start, it's about the open games license that Wizards of the Coast had. I just dropped something. Wizards of the Coast had with their content creators and people who made third-party content. That you were allowed to use things from their, it's called an SRD, their rules basically, or what was the rules state that you can use their rules to influence your rules, and you can use terms that they created in your game or your content. So
it's basically like rule sets, environments, and things like that.
We're talking like 200 pages or something of rules, but you know, it's like stuff like that is specific to D&D, unless it's like licensed crap, like specific settings, specific creatures that's not something that the OGL covered. OGL covered, which is Open Games License, it covered the basic rule set. And essentially this has been in place for 20 plus years. It's been like 23, 24 years now that this has been accessible to everyone. You published underneath the OGL. You had to follow a couple of different rules to do so, but for about 20 years or so, companies like Paizo, like Paizo, Kobold Press, Green Ronin, Legendary Games, Roll for Combat, they all used this OGL to publish their own works that were referencing D&D. The problem is after 20-something years, they decided to update their OGL, but they didn't really update the OGL.
And updating is used in a very different way here because, like, well, let's be honest, right? Things and agreements, whatever, they usually do have to be updated as time goes by and as like norms change. But I think the way that
is the writers who wrote the original OGL had took into account that things were going to be happening that they couldn't account for, and it's written into the original OGL. So technically, the things that they made the new one on were already covered in the old one.
Right, but not in the way that that they need at the moment.
Well, not in the way that they don't get as much money.
Exactly, that's what I mean by need. And I think that that's what it all comes down to. It's just their need for money. it's they
all boils down to them saying
Wizards of the
D&D is
Coast.
under monetized.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast had like their D&D Beyond service, and we'll touch on that a bit later. But they had a subscription service, and that was one of their ways of monetizing, the whole like company.
Besides books,
Exactly.
and besides all the other things that they sold under with their actual logo on it, yeah.
Right. But yeah, so that is kind of pretty much the overall topic here. And obviously, the reason that it's important and the reason why we're bringing it up and talking about it is because tabletop gaming is role playing. And like we said when we first started the show, is, this is Out of Character. We are a role playing podcast, and this is important. Even though it's not
This
video
is
games or like what we've been talking about so far, this has to do with the community, so it's important for us.
This is like history in tabletop right now, like happening in the last week or so has been actual history of the whole tabletop industry is going to pivot from this point forward,
right,
from what happened this week.
So Nixie is a lot more educated on the subject than I am, because she was great. She did her due diligence. So I will just be sitting back and learning some, as you guys are as well. But Nixie, like let's just go ahead and let's talk about this OGL. Yeah, and
so starting at the beginning though is pretty crazy. Because it all stems back to something happened with the shareholders, in which they got word that Wizards of the Coast under Hasbro, because Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast a while back.
Right.
Wizards of the Coast was making $1.8 billion a year gross revenue. Which gross revenue is an important word at this point, so that's why I pulled that out. So they're breaking 1.8 billion a year. So the shareholders go, well, that's a lot of money. They could have like their own. That's rivaling how much Hasbro makes without them. So they're like, why can't we get more money from that? So the CEO, Cynthia Williams is a big name in this. I believe she's one of the really high top end execs. I'm not exactly sure her CEO, but Cynthia Williams basically said Wizards of the Coast is under monetized. And that started conversations on how to monetize Wizards of the Coast more.
And let's just kind of under monetize it, and that's like that's a corporate way of saying we could be making more.
Yeah,
because like if they were profitable,
off the things we have,
right? If they're profitable, then under monetize is just a way of saying we could be making more than what we're already making.
Yes. So they realized, oh my gosh, they're making money. Why can't we be making that money? They're making the money. Why aren't we getting a cut of that? Because it's our stuff, right? We aren't doing anything. They're making it, but it's like the original stuff was ours, right? So we get that, right?
Right.
So, but the problem is the OGL, because the OGL is what's making it so they can do that in its entirety. That's what the OGL is all about. That was the purpose of the OGL, according to the original writers of it, who have been showing up on podcasts and videos and streams all over the internet saying, I helped write this. This was the original intent. But really what started this whole week was on January 5th, last Thursday, 1.1 got leaked to a bunch of high studio people. There was Roll for Combat, which is Stephen Glicker and Mark Sifter, I believe. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Mark Sifter and Stephen Glicker got 1.1. And they verified that it was legitimate. They had their ways. They know people within the industry. I believe Mark Sifter is actually someone who used to work for Paizo or still works for Paizo. At the same time, shortly after that, there was a verification tweet from Kickstarter, the CEO of Kickstarter, which I actually have that up. John Ritter was someone who posted to his Twitter about having confirmation that Wizards of the Coast had talked to Kickstarter, saying we have talked to them and we talked them down from the number they wanted to take from people. That was when, the same day that everything got leaked, that this was even a thing. So people start talking about it. It's not, the full document isn't released yet, though. They're just talking about it. It's been released to people. They're still verifying. So flash forward to the 9th, that next Monday, this Monday. And that was when 1.1, the original document, was released in its entirety. I have read the entire 15 pages of this Open Games license.
She has.
I have highlighted parts in different colors.
She sends me the document, and I'm working, and I'm like, I can't read all this. She's like, I got this.
Yeah, I read all 15 pages of weird ass legalese with their comments in it. It's a very strange document because it's not entirely legal document, because it has comments from them to clarify.
Yeah, it's like a red line document. Still in the works.
Well, actually, no, because this is not a draft, even though they keep repeatedly stating it was a draft. This was what was leaked, was attached to be signed contracts to content creators, which is how it got leaked. Content creators were given this as the final draft of what they were supposed to be reading and signing on to.
And by content creators, we're talking about people that are, like we said earlier,
third party. Yeah,
using the rule set of D&D and making their own stuff, like Critical Role.
I'm going to refer to that as 1.0A. 1.0A is the original one.
Yeah.
Critical Role, like all of those names I listed off before, who works with Paizo and stuff. All of those people, like Kobold Press, they make their own content. Paizo made Pathfinder. Those kind of people were getting these things early.
And you're gonna hear those names being dropped a lot because these are the people that are affected the most by it.
So they released the full document of Open Games License 1.1, which separates out content or third-party creators between non-commercial and commercial, and sets the boundaries for what that means and what you have to do when you fall into which bracket. Non-commercial is if you give it away for free. That's it. There's nothing else it covers.
Right.
You give your stuff away for free and you ask for nothing in return. Even if it's like on a Patreon, you can't give it away for a Patreon. You can't, if you can accept donations, but you can't ask for money in advance. You're non-commercial.
Right.
They have a little bit of differences between commercial in the basic rule set. But for the most part, it's the same. It's all the same. Like the last 3 pages are basically the same content for so really it was only like 14 or 11 pages or so. But so they separated out into commercial and non-commercial. And there's a few really big problems to start with this OGL 1.1. And it has to do with how they're wording things now. OGL non-commercial only allows for the creation of role-playing games and supplements in printed media and static electronic file formats. Basically, if you write a book, if you are creating adventure paths, if you are making your own rule changes, homebrewing stuff, that's what the commercial and non-commercial will now only cover. Otherwise, you're under the fan content policy. And that's always been a thing, but if you fall under the fan content policy, which is only for specific situations, you can't charge for anything under the fan content policy.
Yeah, nothing at all.
You have to give it away for free. it even says like 3 times in the first sentence, it has to be free. The thing that really stood out to a lot of people in this specific section, though, is that they've called out virtual tabletops. Things like Foundry, Roll20. There's other ones, but those are the 2 ones I know most. And that is because everybody knows Wizards of the Coast wanted to make their own virtual tabletop. That was only theirs. If you have any questions, interrupt me, because I can keep going.
No. And actually, like, we've already seen some of these things take effect in certain things, like even Hero Forge, which some of you might know as like the like mini creator, like 3D stuff. They had to remove certain things because they were basically labeled as, you know, like, oh, it's a mind flare or something like that, which belongs to Wizards of the Coast and DnD. So,
which, to be fair, that's actually against the original OGL as well, because that falls under the unlicensed content. Which
and and actually, I'll kind of butt in here for a second, and because I was watching this video on somebody that I've been watching for a long time, and he does movie reviews for the most part. They asked whether anybody believed if anybody believed that this would affect the upcoming movie that's coming up, and the video turned into something that wasn't exactly related to the movie. They were talking about, you know, how they thought that it was just about like the profit that people were making, and that if people made 750,000 and up, then I mean they should be happy that they can use somebody else's property to make that money. And this video was getting a lot of backlash because of that, because of kind of what Nixie just said, is like, if you're using somebody's like property, like a mind flare, that is technically their character. That's like me writing a book about Superman and releasing it, right? That's not okay. He's not my character. But when you think about the reason this guy was getting so much backlash in his video was because most content like that in D&D, like when you think about Critical Role, that they came up with like their own class, like the Blood Hunters, and their own content, their own worlds, they are just using the rule set for D&D. They are creating their own content and their own characters. They're not using anybody's like property, you know? So that is the difference between both things. Is like, I'm not writing a story about Superman. I'm writing a story about my bard that I created. You know, like it's different. But yeah, I'm sorry. Next, go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to figure out. Let's see, because the big things that the OGL said, and there's a couple of different things that were really big and bad that everyone's talking about with the OGL. Specifically, them stating that. Oh, where was the actual wording? I have it highlighted in red here. It is. This agreement is, along with the OGL non-commercial, an update to the previously available OGL 1.0a, which is no longer an authorized license agreement. The problem with them stating that is that OGL 1.0a was never meant to be revoked.
Right.
They're was kind using of the word authorized in a. I actually read a thing about, or watched a guy who wrote the original one that explained why authorized is not used correctly here, because they said that it's no longer authorized, and they did say that something had to be authorized in the OGL because there was multiple OGLs floating around at the time of the creation of 1.0a. There was other versions of it. So they said, so authorized was supposed to be only be the OGL that was what they were working on, the authorized one. So they're trying to say, but no, we've decided we're going to revoke it, even though it's not revocable, which is something that everyone is debating, and many lawyers have been jumping in on this conversation all over the place. IP lawyers, contract lawyers are coming in saying they cannot revoke 1.0a because revoking it would mean that everything that you agreed to under 1.0a now falls under 1.1.
Mm-hmm.
But 1.1 has some very specific terms that makes this very bad. And I have that highlighted in a very different color on my document because the big bad words. You own the new and original content you create. Period. You agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose.
Yeah. That
If you make something that falls under 1.1, you get to say it's yours, but they get to use it however they want and not pay you anything for it.
and that is crazy.
Absolutely insane.
That is crazy. It's like you're basically telling people, hey, you could use my screwdriver, but whatever you build, I can with my screwdriver, I can claim, or use.
I actually saw something on Reddit that was a really good example of this. It's like if your grandpa paid for your college tuition, and then you went and got and graduated and got a steady job, and then he decided that because he helped pay for your college tuition, you now owe him 20% of everything you earned.
Yeah.
20 years later.
It's wild, the fact that they can basically just grab anybody's content. Like, because when you think about it, and I'm gonna fall back to Critical Role and their company often because I know them more than anybody else. When you think about how much content Critical Role has created for Dungeons and Dragons, and not just that, but how much exposure they've given to Dungeons and Dragons, because let's be honest, they are one of the most watched channels on Twitch. They are bringing in like millions of dollars in subscriptions and merchandise and whatever, and now they
have a TV show that's airing season 2 soon.
Right, exactly. And now basically this company can say, well, we can use for example, their class Blood Hunter that they created, we can use that and make our own money or like based on what you created, and that to me,
and it's ours, and you give it to us because you signed
it. Fucking weird.
And they can use it. The other thing is they say somewhere else that they can sub-license it out as well.
Exactly.
They can take your content and sub-license it themselves to somebody else to produce. On top of being able to terminate you from your contract for any reason.
Right. So for example, let's think about this movie that's coming out, right? We know that they're going to keep it close to the chest. Like it's all going to be D&D, like, you know, Wizards of the Coast original content. But in the case that they wanted to include Blood Hunters in their movie under the new agreement or OGL, they can do that and say fuck you to Critical Role.
And Critical Role sees nothing of it because they signed 1.1, which
that's
is
crazy.
A possibility. It's not been confirmed that they signed 1.1, but they sure as hell looks like they signed 1.1 already.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I saw a thing that said Wizards of the Coast needs Critical Role more than Critical Role needs Wizards of the Coast. Because they didn't even start on D&D, they started on Pathfinder.
Yeah, they did.
So they could.
I can't wait till we start talking about Paizo.
Yeah, no, but it's just, to me, it's just insane the fact that somebody can grab my content, and just because I use your rule set, you can claim it as your own, but you had no creative concept in it. Like, what the fuck?
Now, I actually looked at the original OGL to see the wording they used, and basically what they did is they flipped it, because in the original OGL, it basically said, you own your content, but we agree to give you all of those things to use our content, to use our rule set from the SRD as you see to make your stuff.
Right.
So they basically took the same wording and just changed it from you agree to give us.
Yeah, they
to,
played an
or
Uno
we agree
reverse
to give
card.
you. Yes, exactly. And now you can make those bigger companies are able to sign better deals. In fact, there was an article that talked about sweetheart deals with the higher earning people. So this is not the same as something like what Critical Role would have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
They more than likely definitely got a contract that had much better, like, beneficial to both of them.
Oh yeah.
But that's only if you get really big, because then we get into the problem with the commercial side of this document, which has now, from what we can tell from their official statement today, this was revoked. But just to understand why everyone got so mad with the original OGL 1.1 release leak, they had a royalty system built into the OGL. Which is not an OGL, it's 1.1. Anyway, it was a tiered leveled system based on how much revenue you're bringing in. And I say revenue, I mean gross revenue, not how much you actually earn in profits, how much you earn in total. Now, if that's before you pay your employees, that's before you pay processing fees, that's before you pay even Kickstarter's like 7% fee. That is before you do anything else. You have to report how much money you made on it. If you're an initiate tier, which means you make less than 50,000, they still ask you to say what your project was, where you posted it, and a little details about it. Usually how much it costs that you're charging for it, so they can have an idea of what everyone is making. If you're an intermediate tier, you made more than 50,000 but less than 750,000. At that point, yearly you have to tell them how much you earned, so they know what you made, how much you earned on it, where you're offering it for sale, all of those things. All of your annual financial reporting has to go to them as well. If you're an expert tier, that's when they start charging you in royalties. Every dollar over $750,000 in total revenue is now qualifying revenue, up to 20 to 25%.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
It's insane. And also, when you think about it, these companies, they have to pay taxes on that income as well. And you're most likely paying, if, let's say, you are a company like Critical Role that's making way beyond 750,000, you're probably going to end up paying Wizards of the Coast more than you're paying for taxes on the income that you're making.
So basically, it's only so if you can make $750,000 and not a penny more, and you won't have to pay the royalties. But if you make a dollar over $750,000, you're gonna pay them 25 cents.
Right.
For every dollar over
but
that
we know
amount,
damn well
25 cents.
Critical Role makes way beyond that.
Yeah. So yeah, no, for sure. So it is also, if you don't pay on time, they will charge you an interest of 1.5% per month that you don't pay.
Damn.
And if you don't pay them fully, they charge you the costs of reviewing if you underpaid by more than 10%, which is insane. The amount of money they're asking is ridiculous. And they also got talked down by Kickstarter. Like I said, John Ritter tweeted out saying Kickstarter was contacted after Wizards of the Coast decided to make OGL changes. So we felt the best move was to advocate for creators, which we did. We managed to get a lower percentage plus more being discussed. No hidden benefits, no financial kickbacks for Kickstarter. So that would mean that like even Kickstarter wasn't getting their normal because they were charging 20% more.
Yeah.
So the only thing that really they got 5% cut off. If you got money crowdfunded from Kickstarter, you only had to pay 20%, not 25%.
Gotcha.
That's how much they were able to get them down, which is still actually stupid.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But it's it basically was attempting to make it so third-party creators had a cap. You could never get to say Paizo's level of recognition, which Paizo made Pathfinder.
Right.
which Pathfinder 1. The first edition of Pathfinder was derivative of
D&D.
D&D 3.5, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was 3.5. They made it derivative, but Pathfinder 2e actually isn't. It has its own rule set, which was very good to know, learn later on. But everyone was really worried about what this meant for Pathfinder or Paizo. And this all goes the same way. They kept trying to, that if it was the whole you give us non-exclusive no matter how much money you're making, any prior agreements between you and us are no longer enforced, trying to completely shut down 1.0a in their writing.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the main thing that started the rest of the conversation, because this is what leaked and this is what people started freaking out about. And to be honest, most people were like, honestly, the rest of the stuff, the royalties, whatever, we don't care, as long as they only applied it to the new D&D stuff, D&D 6 or whatever the new stuff is. Because they cannot retroactively say, because you made something with the 1.0a license, you can't say now everything I made belongs to you.
Right.
And that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that seems ridiculous on any level, on anything at all. Like, going back in time on like with an agreement just makes no fucking sense at all, because I did this under a certain belief. Like, you cannot go back and try to change.
Even better, you believe you were doing it under something that could not be revoked, could not be taken away from you.
Exactly, and that's one of the biggest things that why people are so pissed off.
Yes. Imagine if D&D 6 was on a 1.1 OGL that no one liked, it would flop so hard. And that's what they're trying to do.
Agreed.
That is exactly what they're
that's
trying
what's
to
happening.
do. That's exactly how things are. So they had, there no one would ever want to go make something under 1.1. So they're like, well, we gotta roll it back then. We need to make sure it covers everything that people are already signed up for.
Yeah. So like, we can see why they did it, but it's fucked up.
It's completely fucked up. It's actually illegal, and according to most lawyers who've been talking about this, legally speaking, if they try to enforce that part of the contract, specifically that one line that they are making null and void 1.0a, it's not legal to do. And anybody could immediately take them to court for trying to do something about it, which many people have talked about the bigger people will be able to do. And be like, yo, hey, this isn't right. And what's crazy about it is they could try and sue every single third-party creator for using 1.0a. It only has to win in court once for everybody else to see the benefit of it. Because if, say, for example, everyone still publishes under 1.0a, and they're like, you can't use 1.0a, you have to use 1.1. Even if they tried to sue every person who did that, every third-party content creator at all, and a judge went, actually, I agree with the people who you're suing, that's all it would take. That's it. Everyone else would benefit. So, because then it would just keep going up. Yeah, well, I think Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are in a rough financial shape, so I do get them looking at currently existing gaming money models. They're not, though. That's the problem. Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro realized that Wizards of the Coast was bringing in $1.8 billion a year.
Yeah, I don't think they're in financial.
And they wanted to monetize them.
I don't think they're in rough financial shape as more. It's more like they can be in better shape, because they were making money out of.
It was growing.
Yeah, it was growing, and when you look at D&D Beyond itself, that was something that tool came out, and it was revered. Like, people really enjoyed using D&D Beyond, and it was growing little by little, and subscriptions were growing, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot now.
People were saying that their numbers were steadily increasing for the last 3 or 4 years after D&D Beyond was purchased. Their numbers were exceeding expectations, which is why they're like, well, how do we get more?
Exactly. They got greedy.
They got greedy. Yes, they had the corporate bullshit mindset of someone who has no idea what this community is about or anything about it.
That's kind of the thing as well, right?
Make more money?
in a corporate background myself, doing like business operations, it's always about growth, right? So like, in part, as a company, if you were a head executive in this company, you would think about ways to grow, or to keep that percentage growing and growing. That is what corporations are for. But I don't necessarily think that this was approached in the best way possible.
So yeah, you want to grow. The problem is that they would have made so much more money if they had just made D&D Beyond worth it to go get. Like,
Exactly.
this is such a good system that there's no reason to go somewhere else. I have everything I need right here, and I want to use it, and it's fantastic. If they made that and they said, here's this awesome system that we're
Yeah.
providing to you, everyone would have gone to it. They would have been, oh,
Yeah.
this is awesome. And they
You
would
know
have made
what?
money.
And I think that they just put the cart before the horse, because of the fact that that's where it was headed. Like,
Yes,
it
they
was slowly
were updating
becoming
it. Things were
this
getting better.
platform that was like amazing. I loved using D&D Beyond for, like, as far as like, character sheets and stuff like that, but it wasn't to the point that I played games on it, because it just wasn't at that stage, like Roll20 and things like that. But
more and more people were starting to use it for that. They were saying, this is actually a pretty good system. I want to use this. Here's a subscription. I'll pay yearly for this.
It was
so
getting
I
there.
can continue playing. People were paying. I knew people talking how they had 6-year accounts. People would have been there for 6 years or more, from D&D Beyond, which actually leads into the next thing that happened after the leak of the OGL 1.1, which is yesterday, actually, January 12th. Yesterday.
Shit got real yesterday, Nixie.
I know, but the big thing that happened to kick it all off was a leaked email from an employee at Wizards of the Coast. Because what ended up happening was somebody who's working on D&D Beyond and worked with the D&D business leaders on the health and product line, found they were told on the 11th that in a 30-minute meeting what was going on, and that they needed to start preparing for that. They were told just before the holidays that's something that they had to prepare for the OGL. They were told on the 11th what was in the OGL. The people on the line on the floor had no idea what was going on. So everyone keeps saying, and I'm going to repeat it as well, if you do have problems with this whole situation, don't go after the employees of Wizards of the Coast. They're pretty much in the same position as the community is. The people who make Wizards of the Coast and D&D Beyond love the community just as much as we do. It's the higher executives who are making
executives for sure. Yeah, it's the business people. It's always always the business people.
It's the people who are creating it, who are the ones that are like, oh my god, what's going on? That they are the ones leaking all of this shit. So we don't, obviously nobody knows who they are. We just know that they are employees of Wizards of the Coast, and they have been providing legible and provable things to people who can do that kind of stuff, multiple times to many different people, proving who they are. And they sent an email to a bunch of different people yesterday explaining what it's like right now at Wizards of the Coast. And basically, I'm going to kind of paraphrase it just a little bit because it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
They said, I'm sending this message because I fear for the health of the community I love, and I know what the leaders of Wizards of the Coast are looking for, which I'm going to start calling WotC because that's what everyone else calls them. And they have 4 bullet points. 1, they are briefly delaying rollout of OGL changes due to the backlash, because this is yesterday, so they had from Monday to Thursday to watch the backlash of everyone finding out what was in 1.1. And people were freaking out, and videos were being posted. Even like people like Philip DeFranco made videos saying, whoa, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
So big people, Asmongold, who is it? There's a few other big people. Anyway, so they said they saw that and they delayed. 2, their decision making is based entirely on the provable impact to their bottom line. So the only decisions they're making are if they can tell if something is going to affect how much money they're bringing in from this. Specifically, they're looking at D&D Beyond subscriptions and cancellations, as it's the quickest financial data they currently have, and they're still hoping that the community forgets, moves on, and they can still push through. They decided to reach out because, and this is, I quote, "I have never once heard management refer to customers in a positive manner. Their communication gives me the impression they see customers as obstacles between them and their money."
Wow.
They said the D&D Beyond team was the first told to prepare to support the new OGL before when they got back from the holidays. And they finally gave the first communication to the rank and file, as they called it, 30 minutes on the 11th, which was the first they even tried to communicate their intentions about the OGL to employees. And even in that meeting, they blamed the community for overreacting. So this caused everyone, and then they said, "I will repeat, the main thing this leadership is looking at is D&D Beyond subscription cancellation."
So what happened due to that, Nixie?
Everyone started canceling their D&D Beyond subscriptions. We're talking like, thousands of people.
Did anybody not see this coming? Like, we know the internet. We know how the internet reacts to things. And they're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that canceling... I was just thinking about that.
No.
You're telling me that they would feel it or they would notice it most with...
The ones that they felt the worst, though, were those people I mentioned earlier, the people who had 6 years in their subscription, who canceled their subscription for the first time.
And was that
Those
something like refunds?
No, that would be just they cancel it so they don't pay anymore. But that's what they're able to see on their side is how many people canceled this month. And they can see that pretty much instantly. If they can go pull a report and see how many people have canceled up to the point that report was pulled. And there are people who they're called whales. They're anything in MMOs, people who are the money spenders who are around for the long haul. They're the ones that you can continuously rely on to be giving you money.
Yeah, exactly. It's the people that don't come and go. And like what Khan said, actually, you said sounds like people canceling gym subscriptions that they never go to. I was thinking about that comparison because that was their hope. Their hope was that people were just gonna kind of forget about it. Like, how many of you have subscribed to something that you didn't use, whether it was like a streaming service or whatever, and you paid for months of it without ever like
too many.
And then like you're like, oh, I'm gonna cancel that, and you see a charge on your credit card, and you're like, shit, I meant to cancel that last month, but I'll just cancel it next month, and then it just keeps going. And I think that was their hope, that people would just kind of forget about it, and
that's
just
exactly what they wanted to have happen.
But that's not what happened at all.
They wanted the community to push on and forget and push through. So what ended up happening is this email got out that basically stated upper executives don't give a crap about you. You are a obstacle between them and their money. So everyone went, fuck you. And they said, we're not going to give you money then. We're not going to be that. And in mass, we're talking thousands of people in the same day. So many people went to go unsubscribe from their DDB subscriptions. They crashed the website.
Yeah, I guarantee you that it's a number higher than we can probably even consider at the moment. And I was actually sorry, Nix, let me on Twitter, I was seeing people giving incentives to other people to cancel. They were like,
I saw that too.
They were like, hey, if you cancel your subscription with D&D Beyond, I'll send you free battle maps. And just send me a screenshot of the cancellation. And I'm looking at these threads and these tweets, and there's people providing screenshots, like hundreds of people canceling their subscriptions. And this guy or these people in the tabletop community was like, yeah, you know what? I could use some free battle maps, and fuck them. So it was like canceled, 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 canceled.
On top of that, however, with the website crashing and people having issues getting on to even cancel their subscriptions, that's when it became aware that they started hiding the subscription button. If you hovered over your name on the website, it would give you a list of things that you could access on the website, but it did not include my subscriptions, which you had to click on in order to actually unsubscribe. You had to click your name specifically for it to show up. It was hidden. That you couldn't even see the my subscriptions button, which was actually illegal, by the way. You can't hide being able to subscribe to people. Either that was some sort of crazy bug or something really, really stupid happened. But even if they didn't have that, you can always put in a ticket to unsubscribe, which I 100%, if you have a DDB subscription right now, go fucking unsubscribe to it. Like, get out of that and show them that this is bad, because that's how they're listening to people. And that's actually what ended up happening. They did listen to that, which caused them to not make a statement until today.
Yeah, and you have to understand, this isn't like a case of like the internet being brats, like we didn't like the Sonic design for the new live action movie, so let's make them change it. It's not that. This is like they're intentionally like doing things that is hurtful to the community. Like, it's just what?
It's a tabletop in general.
Yeah, it's a tabletop in general. Yeah.
There's a ton of tabletops that rely on that OGL to make their content.
Right.
That, like, you need that's how they got started. That's how they get exposure. That's how they get people learn about their thing at all, is because they are under the OGL. So to actively poke them was a really bad idea. But it's just that this email leaked and it caused everyone exploded. They went, "Are you fucking kidding me? How dare you say that?" And everyone rushed to the website to go unsubscribe for their thing, which eventually led to so right at yesterday, Thursday, there was a rumor stating that Wizards of the Coast was going to make an announcement. There's going to be a video announcement somewhere, either on their YouTube or their Twitch. They were going to make an announcement. In fact, they even had a thing, like a schedule thing on their Twitch that said there was supposed to be one at 2 my time, so noon their time, because they're in Seattle. That it said it was there right up until it happened, and then it said canceled. So they immediately were like, no, that was an old thing that we forgot to shut off. Like, now you're looking at it, we forgot it was even there, so we just canceled them all. So it could have been related. It more than likely wasn't. It was just a holdover from an old thing they used to do. But there was no announcement at noon. Nothing happened. Everyone sat around. There was like dreams and stuff of people sitting around waiting to watch the announcement that they weren't even sure was going to happen. But then it was revealed through more leaks and people talking from Wizards of the Coast saying they did cancel it. And that's when we get to our friends Paizo, who people were really worried about. People were super worried about Paizo to start with, because this severely impacted what they did. Because Paizo released under the OGL. Specifically, Paizo version, or the first edition of Pathfinder, was released using 3.5 rules. And then Pathfinder 2e came out and was still released under the OGL. So people are getting really worried. They're like, what's going to happen with Paizo? They're so big but they're not big enough that by taxing them that much with royalties that they're going to be able to continue doing anything, especially because they're direct competition. So everyone's freaking out. They're really worried about Pathfinder going away forever. It's infecting every of these other little tabletop games that are coming out that are all under the OGL. People are so worried. And then Paizo decided to kill the wizard with an orc. And I say that because it's so good.
It's a good line. It's a good line.
They released that they are announcing the creation of a system neutral open RPG license called ORC, Open Games RPG, or its original hold on, I have it right here. Open RPG Creative License, the ORC. Which is about the coolest thing I've ever seen a community rally together to do.
Yeah.
First off, we were gonna wait until they made their announcement. We were gonna let them say what they wanted to say and then say that we were doing this, but they canceled it. So you know what? Screw it. We're gonna tell you guys about this anyway. They are making an open game license, essentially, that's based off of the OGL 1.0 that cannot be deauthorized or revoked because nobody will own it. It is something that a bunch of different games are going to come together and allow people to use their rule sets, just like OGL did with D&D. They'll allow you to use their rule sets for their games to make third-party content without royalties, and you can come in and use it to what you want, make your own money off of it,
And not have to worry about being screwed over.
And never have to worry about being screwed over because they were there. They said,
Right.
We believe that any interpretation that the OGL 1.0 or 1.0A were intended to be revocable or able to be deauthorized is incorrect. And with good reason, we were there.
Yeah.
Owners were there.
Exactly. When you think about it, like these people build what they have based on that. Like, so they understand better than anybody what the like repercussions or what the consequences of this is going to be. And it's technically to keep people from growing to that level. And
it's crushing competition.
Yes, crushing competition. Now you're capping the everybody else at a certain level. And so I think I'm pretty sure that these people were working on this before, but I think it's just freaking hilarious that their arm was twisted in a way to say like, yeah, you know what? This is the perfect time to say it. Like, screw them.
Well, they were working on it before because a lot of what people were worried about as well is because 2E, Pathfinder 2E, was released under the OGL, everyone assumed that the stuff in Pathfinder 2E referenced the OGL. I had rules and things that were similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were really worried that in order for them to do anything, they would have to go back through their entire game and pull out all the pieces that had to do with the OGL and tear it apart. And it's going to take forever. And it's going to be a lot of money. And they might not survive from it, right?
Right.
Turns out when they made 2E, they had already done that. They went, you know what? We don't need any of this. But we're going to release under the OGL anyway, so that other people can use our stuff.
Right.
It wasn't a case of we need to be under the OGL because we are using Wizards of the Coast stuff. It's because we want people to be able to make third-party content of our things. So they didn't need the OGL, and that was a big weight off of people's shoulders because everyone was really worried that Paizo was going to go under. But then they came out and said, actually, guys, not only are we going to make our own, we are going to fight in court anything that happens. We will foot the costs for any legal problems that come from this. And we will be the ones who hire the lawyers to write the new ORC that is going to be perpetual and irrevocable. They're working on with their lawyer, Azora Law, which is an intellectual property law firm that represents them and other people, to join us in the support of the system agnostic license that allows all games to provide their own unique open rules reference documents that open up their individual game systems to the world. So people like Paizo, Kobold Press, Chaosium, which made Call of Cthulhu, Green Ronin, Legendary Games, Rogue Genius Games, and more have already signed on to be part of the ORC.
Nice.
And they're adding more people as time goes on. So this means that they're going to be like, you know what? We don't need to be under the OGL. So for a little while, you're going to see books that are still printed with the OGL in the back. You're going to see that for a bit. And then for a little while, you're going to see books printed without any license at all in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get, you're going to see our books printed with the ORC in the back.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. This is kind of amazing on their part.
It is absolutely mind-blowing. I literally went, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I was so excited because I play Pathfinder. I'm not a D&D person. I play Pathfinder 2e specifically.
Right.
I don't really
way
play
to
any other tables.
use the negativity to your benefit as well. Like,
but
they're I'm not saying that they like use. Yeah. I'm not saying like they used it like in to say that they're using people. Like they're saying that I'm saying that they kind of were like, wait a minute, hold up, we can save the day, and that's kind of amazing.
We're in a position to be able to help save the day. That's the thing. They recognize that they are the ones who are the highest on the list of people who can fight this, that are directly impacted by this, and know people who are directly impacted by this, to be able to be the ones who go, we will fight the legal battle, we will bring you under our wing, and we will protect you guys so that all of us get good from this.
Yeah.
And it's all in their own pocket. They're all they're paying for this.
Now we just need a subscription service for them, and everybody can just change their subscription.
Now they say, the one thing they say is you support us by doing Pathfinder. They also have Starfinder. They do have subscribing to Pathfinder and Starfinder. You can get a beginner box. They decided to do a discount code called Open Gaming.
Nice.
For 25% off your purchase.
Oh my god, I love that.
Which is so fucking funny.
That is funny
as hell.
They're
wanting 25% royalties, so they're asking for a 25. They give you a 25% discount to buy their rule book right now.
Just twisting the
knife. Literally
yeah.
Just twisting that. They do have some services, I guess, but I don't actually know what that is, what that entails. I can look at it. We actually have a link right here. They do have a subscription to Pathfinder and Starfinder that releases things that you get shipped right to your door, like free PDF, product discounts, stuff like that. So you can sign up on paizo.com/source/subscriptions if you want to support them.
We're not sponsored by Paizo, by the way.
You're not sponsored by Paizo.
We are just role-playing fans, and we are role players. We are part of this community.
We don't have any Fetty like sponsoring us yet.
So
which, I mean, we're not wanting that. But,
and this is freaking great for like the future that Wizards of the Coast was trying to avoid.
This is quite literally building their worst nightmare because of what they tried to do to shut it down. Because now nobody will have to depend on their OGL. That's a bunch of people have already started taking down content that has to do with D&D that they were producing. There's a bunch of people who are basically like, I'm not going to make anything more for D&D if this is what they're going to do.
And it sucks. Like, let's be honest, it sucks because D&D was it is so massive and popular, and there's so much that people were benefiting out of, or making money, or dedicating their like creativity and time into, that now these people are already hurting by taking things down, by stop whatever they might be doing, and so it's already affecting some people. But it just comes to show you now that they can pivot, try to do something else, and try to benefit from Wizards of the Coast trying to screw everyone over.
Beyond this, though, and I remembered this, I was just looking at what they posted again on paizo.com. They're not going to be the owners of this license.
Right.
They're paying for the legal thing to make it. they are going to find a nonprofit with the history of open source values, such as Linux Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
to actually host the license. So all of these people who are going into it, even if they get super big and end up having executives that are doing exactly what Wizards of the Coast is doing right now, they can't do fucking anything about the ORC.
Yeah.
Because that is how it's going to be written. And I love the way they end this. They said, "We'll be at your side. We'll be there at your side. You can count on us to not go back on our word forever." It is,
Yeah.
they basically said, "Fuck you. We're going to do this. We're going to take it much better. We're going to make it bigger than it ever was, to foster a community, to grow our people, make new games, and make a healthy ecosystem of tabletop games.
Yeah, and what they're doing
And
it
we're
is
going
that
to do
they're
it in a
kind
pocket."
of like proofing it, like making it so that people that come after them don't go back on their word, you know, like what's happening.
Exactly.
Because as everyone knows, like in corporate America, people come and go. You're not here forever.
Which is exactly what happened to D&D. Because they
Exactly.
had the original guy, Gygax, I believe his name was. Was that the guy who created D&D? He was the one he was kind of in that same. They actually, D&D got sued when they first got started for taking rules from another system. Gary Gygax, yes. They got sued for taking systems from someone else, and that's part of why D&D became what it is. And then who was it? It was Ryan Dancy, who I watched a whole interview with him. He's an amazing person. He is the person who came up with the OGL in the first place. And then him and one other person, Brian Lewis, who is a co-founder of Azora Law, wrote the OGL.
Yeah.
And they are working directly with Paizo to make the ORC.
Yeah, didn't D&D get sued by Tolkien?
It got sued by somebody, and they got into a lot of trouble because they took stuff from another game system, I believe, which is why they ended up pivoting and making it D&D as it is now, or what as it was. And then they got too big, and their executives started doing this bullshit. But anyway,
yeah.
So
moving on.
Paizo's announcement. That was Paizo's announcement. Today. Actually, was it today? Was it? Hold on, I gotta pull up things. Where's it at?
I think it was today.
Was it today that they announced their shit?
Yeah, it was around noonish, I think.
It was today. Wizards of the Coast announcement came out. They finally said something. I actually have the original version here. They edited it, apparently, according to people. I don't actually know what the edit is because I have the original quote here. Let me find it because I did not pull that up. Where was it? Sorry, I had everything.
Thanks for the follow, Noel.
Here it is.
Welcome.
Here it is. Thank you for the follow. An update to the OGL game license. An update on the OGL, basically. And it was a very short. It was posted 9 hours ago, so this is very new. It was very short, complete bullshit response that lied consistently throughout the whole thing. Provably lied. People have exact copies of things that show that what they're saying in this response are lies.
Yeah.
The big one of this thing being that they're calling 1.1 a draft. And that is provably a lie because when it was released and when it was leaked, it was attached to the contracts people were supposed to sign agreeing to 1.1. So that was what they were agreeing to. That was the final version. That was what went through their lawyers and were presented in front of the content creators saying this is your version.
Yeah.
Now they're calling it a draft.
let's be honest, a PR nightmare, and they are trying to
Yeah.
to control the situation.
The problem is that if it actually was a draft, they should have immediately announced the second it was leaked that
Yeah.
that's just a draft.
But and that's not what happened. What happened was like, what if we just don't say anything?
What if we just sit here and wonder what they're gonna do about this?
Right.
And then sit here and go, oh no, why are they getting mad at us? So now they posted their response, which was I made a tweet actually. I don't know, nobody follows my Twitter. I'm at Nixie the Dragon. So it's very simple. But I made a tweet today because I found online a it was a bingo card that someone made for when they did finally make a response. And I X'd the ones that they all hit, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of my bingo card. I didn't get a bingo, but I got fucking close. Because what they released was exactly what you would expect from corporate America. And even to the degree of being really condescending in parts.
Yeah.
They made it very clear. 25, so it was half though. Yeah. They made it very clear what they think about people in this response. The middle was free. I didn't count the middle as my number either. So it was 11 of 24, I guess. But anyway, so they tried to say the reason they did all of this OGL update thing was for 3 reasons, 3 major goals in mind. First one, they wanted to prevent the use of D&D content for being included in hateful and discriminatory products. People already couldn't do that because that would be a whole other legal problem. They wanted to address those attempting to use D&D and Web3, blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. The original OGL already did that. The original OGL didn't specify what the OGL covered specifically in those terms. So, because they knew when they wrote it, according to the people who wrote it, who were on a podcast that I watched, they made it as broadly open as possible on purpose because they wanted to make sure they didn't know what would happen in the future. They knew that there was a lot happening. They knew that things like online things were starting to become more popular. This was around Y2K that this was written. So things were known that it'll change. So they made it open. So they're trying to say that they made the changes to the OGL for something the OGL already covered. Great. And third, and this is the big one, this is the obvious one. We wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, the home brewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, not major corporations to use for their own commercial and promotional purpose. So, according to WotC, anybody making over $750,000 a year in content is a major corporation.
Yeah, you're no longer a content creator. Like, what?
Not only that, you're a major corporation, and people were kind of figuring out the numbers for this thing. For people who make that amount of money, it's approximately a 3-person studio.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying that 3 people making content with the OGL is a major corporation they have to shut down.
Wow.
All right. So that's the first part of this whole thing. They then tried to be all witty haha. It's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. It sounds like a grandpa using modern lingo. Yeah. Like, that's totally sus, says the old man. Like, and they're like, well, it's because of your guys' backlash, we can't achieve all of our goals anymore. So now they're saying that they did change one thing that is a little interesting. and I wouldn't say it does anything more than it's interesting, is that they included virtual tabletops as something that it would content or would cover to protect, so they wouldn't be affected by the new OGL.
Right.
However, then it says immediately after that, content already released under 1.0a will also remain unaffected. Content already released. Sorry. So basically, what they're saying is, we aren't going to retroactively take all of your shit because it was under 1.0a. But you can't release under 1.0a because we're still getting rid of that. So anything new will have to be under 1.1.
Yeah, that's basically.
We just aren't going to take the stuff you've already made, essentially. They also removed their royalty structure. They got rid of their 3-tier system. Because people got really mad about it. And they also made it so you don't have to put their license in the back of all of your shit, which part of the OGL specifically stated, like, if you have anything related to what's in the OGL, if, like, say you have, like, a reference to something from their like a rule of theirs, you have to put after that in italics, in parentheses, somewhere near where you used it on the page that it's from their shit. And you had to include the full license at the back of your book.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, all of this in the statement that was released now 9 hours ago is like like PR control. Like, you are addressing everything people were pissed off about, yet you're like acting as if it was like already there. You know, like, oh, it was a draft, so just to clarify things, this is not going to be in there, this is not going to be in there, this is not going to be in.
Not what it was.
And it was like, we know you're like this is a reaction, this is not pro, like. But okay, like, treat us like we're stupid.
Okay, and then the big one that really was condescending as hell. And this is the thing that when I first read it, I went, are you fucking kidding me? They actually wrote this in an official, like, release statement on this subject? Full of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right, but it is coming. Second, this is the big one. You're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. Are you fucking kidding me?
What?
I'm sorry, what?
I was reading the document as you were saying that.
Say they won?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, the fuck is the... You're such a condescending piece of shit. Like, how do you tell me that you hate me as your fan, as your customer base, without saying you hate me as your customer base? Because, wow, to specifically call out the people who are saying there's something wrong with this that they're doing, as saying we got them to change something, which is good because they're evil.
And then say the very next sentence that came up.
Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. The drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. Except you didn't solicit input. You released it and then got mad at the leak.
Yeah, that's... Our plan was always, and then they like italicized it, right? Like, always to solicit the input of our community before updating that. Like, was it though?
You didn't solicit any feedback. You can't call that soliciting feedback when the feedback you got was because of leaked content.
Right.
Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and which did not, which we ultimately got from you.
Right.
Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles, aka we we're scared because you guys actually let us know with your money how everything we just tried to pull past you as a fast one didn't work.
That whole paragraph is fighting words. like, don't talk down to me like that. Like, I will punch you in the face.
It's just the fact is they tried to say that they got feedback as though they had released this as an actual thing that people were voting on, to be like, what do you guys think about this OGL thing? And everyone's like, no, we don't like it. Like, this is bad. We don't like this part. You shouldn't do this part.
Yeah, right.
That
okay,
is
we'll
what
be
they
back in a
act
week
like is
when
happening.
we you know, go through red lines and update it, and we'll get your feedback then. That's not what happened. Don't
This
give us
was
that shit.
People who got the contract went, what the fuck is this shit? And leaked it to people to talk about.
Right. And then what happened is that now you're being reactionary and trying to set up, like, put out fires. That is what's actually happening.
The PR crap.
Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, we care because you literally just tried to destroy our entire hobby. You tried to dismantle what we've known for 20 years.
Oh man.
That whole section was, I read that and I was like, this is what they decided on. This is the thing that they decided was okay to post.
The part that annoyed me was the italic. The italic. Our plan was always to solicit like.
We always meant to get your guys' input after you guys signed it and we owned all of your things and you had to fight us in court about it. Oh, but you can't get a jury trial for this. That was a part of the OGL, by the way. You can't get a jury trial. It's only bench trials. You agreed to not have a jury trial.
Oh boy.
We love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. Stop lying, you sacks of shit. Everyone's growling in the background, sorry. But yeah, so that's the big stuff that happened so far. A couple other things that happened. Critical Role made a statement that was not a statement. Everyone's fairly certain Critical Role already signed a sweetheart deal with them, so they can't be fully against them because that would probably get them in legal trouble.
Yeah, it's a very neutral statement.
Be fully with them because they can't be fully with them because the entire community would tear them apart.
Yeah, it is a very neutral statement. Basically saying that they support creators in game development in the tabletop space, but they're basically saying, hey, we support you guys, but you know, there's things that we've put into place or that we've been working at to make sure that
say that we support you, but we support you, but we can't say it because I also saw apparently Matt Mercer liked a tweet that was basically like OpenDnD Pro. Like, you can't do this, and he liked it. He didn't reply, he didn't post anything, but he liked the tweet, and people were like, we see you.
Yeah, but then, like, if anybody at all is gonna understand everybody's frustration, is Critical Role. We're like, because where they are would not be possible under this new thing. Because, like, you look at Critical Role, or you look, like, everybody in the D&D space knows Critical Role, and how many people they've brought into D&D, and there's so many people that have said, you know, Wizards of the Coast needs Critical Role, and so, but like I said, I'm pretty sure, like you said, sorry, I'm pretty sure that they signed something that was more beneficial to both parties.
It looks like there was an article that I read, actually I have it right here, that it was just basically stating that a bunch of people got offered sweetheart deals.
I'm sure they're
specific with the big people saying we'll give you a better deal than what other people will get.
Yeah.
and this is all you get. Like, especially because this was happening before all of this was released.
I'm
So
sure.
they
I'm
may
sure
not
they
have even
did,
seen this version.
because when you think about how the community reacted to the leaks and everything, right now, imagine if you had a force like Critical Role actively against you.
Yes.
Like they knew they had to do something to sweeten that for them before any of this, like before this was all leaked or made public or whatever. They had to
'Cause they're so
control
big.
that, because it's so big that if you did something outside of their knowledge that like was not going to benefit them and was going to kind of screw their company a bit, like that is a massive fan base that they have that would have just torn you down faster.
And like it wasn't, they got torn down really fast. Right?
They did anyway.
So
Yeah.
and the problem is you're gonna get people who are still going to support them. You're still gonna get people who don't see it as a big deal. There's gonna be a lot of people who don't even know this is happening, which sucks. Those are the people they're hoping will stick around long enough to let this go through. They're going to be continuing to get money from those people who don't understand what's happening. So if you know people who play D&D, if you have any talk and any conversation with D&D people, even non-D&D people, because this is something that can affect outside of tabletop gaming eventually.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. It's like
tell them about it.
This affects. This doesn't affect like the casual like homebrew. Hey, we're just playing this in our basement, once a week or whatever. Like that doesn't affect you, but it affects people that have spent time, money, effort, energy into creating content for this community or this gaming system. It affects them, and you shouldn't, whether you're just a casual player like myself, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't affect me directly. How it does affect me is that it affects the community, and as somebody that cares about the community and the content creators of the community, I should care, even though it doesn't directly have an impact in my life.
And that's something, I've always been someone who, I've never been big on tabletop games. I just never really got into them. I played a Pokemon game, and then I played Pathfinder, and then I played I played Pathfinder right after Pokemon. So I never really consider myself a tabletop player, but this affects a huge community of people who have been around for so many years.
Yeah.
Even though I play Pathfinder, and this isn't super, this did almost affect me if Kaiser Hunt have come out and been like, we got you.
Yeah.
But like, it's crazy to me to think that something as big as D&D would try to pull this shit.
Yeah, for sure. Something so driven by the people. And that's the thing.
Yes.
It's like, this isn't something you could compare to like Disney, Marvel, or Harry Potter or something. Like D&D is driven by the people, and content is created by the people. So it's not the same. And that's why like we should care about the content creators. But we'll see where this goes from here moving forward. You can tell that they're already
up to
trying to pick up the pieces.
Well, they're going to be picking up the pieces for a while now, because the community sees them for their shit, and that's something that you don't really, I don't think they were quite expecting the community to be so. The problem is they went after people who like to talk about rules.
Right. Like that's what the game is about.
Who play the game, who talk about rules and talk about this kind of shit for fun. And now it's happening to them, and they went, hold the phone. Half of us are lawyers.
Right.
Like, they've got so many lawyers who are looking at every ounce of this. I know a podcast that, I don't know if it's today, I think it was today, sometime around this time, they're talking to a guy from Canada who wrote a dissertation on the OGL.
Wow.
Like, this is someone who did a ton of legal research into the OGL 1.0A.
Yeah, it's
They talked to the guy who wrote it. They talked to the guy who conceived it. They, you know, these people are coming out being like, whoa, 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 whoa! You can't say it wasn't that this was the intention of the OGL 1.A because I wrote it. That wasn't the intention of the 1.A.
mm-hmm. This is crazy. We have to see. They're already trying to put out fires. We can clearly see that that's what they're doing. Their reputation is tainted. It will never be the same anymore. No matter how much they try to course correct, the damage is done.
They could completely shut down everything to do with this OGL, and people are already still backing out because they know that that's something on their minds. They know that that's what they're willing to do. Even if this is the worst case scenario of everything that's happened, they did it. They wrote this.
If you betray somebody's trust, or they'll always have an eye on you. You know, no matter what.
But it is a great time to go look up other games.
It is.
It's a great time to go look up non D20 games as well. People who weren't even under the OGL. Like Call of Cthulhu was a good one. They're going to be under Orc. Go try Pathfinder, guys. I love Pathfinder.
I want to try Pathfinder.
It's such a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I've been making maps for Pathfinder games. Like I really do enjoy Pathfinder. Especially now that you can get it for 25% off on the website. Not sponsored.
But so Nix, what is that all that we have to cover today? What else?
Oh, the 2.0 FAQ were released. They came out with a 2.0 version.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the FAQ, but the actual documentation hasn't been released, and that happened not that long ago. So I haven't looked into that yet, so I don't have any information. But I do know that the FAQ was released, and there was a few things on there that I remember seeing that were interesting. It tried to backtrack on certain things, but then really doubled down on others. From what I could tell, it was really condescending as well. Just the FAQ was really condescending. Which how do you get more? I don't know, but that was the FAQ that was leaked. The problem with 2.0 FAQ is that they're now worried that Wizards of the Coast are going to be trying to find who's leaking. So they are being very careful to verify with each other what parts are the same wording without any variations to it. Because if something is different, they could find out I gave that version of that to this copy to that person. So they're being very, very careful to go word for word in this thing, verifying each section before they announce the whole thing. Because it's really worrying. They don't want to get anybody in trouble who's been leaking this, because this is how we're finding out. It's through these people who are willing to do the leaks. But that's the last thing I heard was essentially that they're looking at the FAQ and this 2.0 version that has been doing the rounds that doesn't include the royalties, tries to backtrack on saying we own everything you have, but still is really shit as a contract, and it's still trying to get rid of 1.0A, which is the big problem.
Yeah. Well, guys, we know that we went longer, but we knew we would go longer. This was a serious conversation. A conversation that's being had all over the internet. We're not the only people talking about this. And at this point, it's probably beating a dead horse. But like, I feel like there's people in my community, there's people that I'm friends with that aren't familiar with it, and because this is a role-playing show podcast, this is something we had to talk about.
Which we could have talked about it last Friday, but we decided
Mhm.
It wasn't quite, there wasn't enough information really yet out.
Right.
I knew at the time that there had been a leak. I didn't know the wording of it. There wasn't a lot yet. So if you guys want more information, though, there's other people who are talking about this as well. Like Roll for Combat on YouTube is the people who talked to that's Stephen Glicker and Mike Seifter, who work in Paizo, worked with Wizards of the Coast. These are people who are intimately aware of the community. So if you want more information, more in-depth, detailed stuff that they know with their contacts and stuff, Roll for Combat's amazing. That's the people I've been looking at for a lot of my info because they have such good stuff.
Well, Nixie, we appreciate you doing all of the research. And
I was keeping on top of it all week long.
Yeah, I know you were. And there were actually things that like Nixie and I would like touch up on in like DMs, but we didn't have full conversations because we wanted to discuss this during the show. So we urge you guys to, you know, listen to us, listen to other people, make your own opinion, because like we're not trying to force an opinion on you, but get educated. I think that's kind of the point that we're trying to make.
That we wanted to this is a good way, very condensed down version of what the fuck's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Hour and a half of what is actually happening in the tabletop community right now.
Yeah.
And unsub from DB. I'm just gonna say that. Just unsub from D&D Beyond.
From D&D Beyond, yeah.
If you have D&D Beyond, just unsub. Just do it. It's a great way to say what the fuck. I don't agree.
Yeah. Well, if do you have anything else, Nix?
I think we got everything, and
Okay.
I'm very excited. I like these kind of things. I hope we do have more stuff like this happens in the future.
For sure.
Not this bad, but like I will hope to do some more of these like deep dives into situations.
Yes, because it is definitely things that are part of the community, like I said, and I enjoy talking about them. And Nyx did a great job with her with her research. And if there is any more development, any more news or crazy shit that happens, we'll you know, do like an update episode and kind of discuss it further. We didn't bring a guest on this week because we thought that this was too important to not talk about.
Yes.
And unless we had somebody that could come on and talk about, you know, like all of the D&D things, but it was a bit last minute, so finding a guest was just not very convenient.
Yeah, it was good to be able to sit down and talk for the hour and a half anyway.
Yeah, for
Usually
sure.
we go for an hour.
Yeah,
but
so
it was a lot happening. So
it is, and it's not done, and it's not over,
not done at all.
We'll
not
see
even close.
where it goes from here. We'll see if the fire spreads. We'll see if it gets put out, and how the fans react. Because that, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, the community. So thank you guys for hanging out and for you know, giving us your ear for an hour and a half to talk about this.
Yep. Thank you everybody for letting me talk about it because I had a lot of fun looking up, and I can't wait to give you more info on what happens with this because it's crazy. But
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.